Stop for a moment, let your body relax and breathing become deeper, because now we come to the end of this path, to the fact that collects all said in unison, as in music, where every note is sounded separately. Now there comes a time chords, when all voices merge into one harmony, and if you went through these practices, if you listened to the words of a love for God, love for one's neighbour, about humility, about purity of heart, about humility, about compassion, about peacemaking, about patience in affliction, now you can see that they are not random. They all revolve around the same axis, around two simple and most profound things that can only hold a human heart. And this love and humility, these two virtues, as they say, those who have passed this way to the end, contain within itself all the rest. Because if there's love, she will teach you to be merciful. She will keep you from anger. She will make you a peacemaker. And if you live in humility, you don't judge others, you will not seek to dominate, be able to tolerate injustice. And when these two forces meet in the heart, they begin to work as the invisible engine that gradually straightens everything was curved, healing all that were injured, and then the commandments which thou hast heard cease to be external requirements, which need to force yourself and be a natural expression of who you've become. And now, you're still breathing in this silence. Try to feel love and humility are already living in you, maybe in its infancy, maybe higher than the noise of other voices. But they are, because they are embedded in the nature of your heart, and your task is not to create them from nothing and allow them to grow, remove the fact that they're mutes, and then gradually, step by step, they will lead you to the fullness of which the Holy Fathers say, and this way, they called a ladder because it is not flat. It goes up, and each successive step builds on the previous one. And if you look at the 9 beatitudes, which we discussed, you will see that they built it as a ladder. Spiritual poverty, that is humility. It becomes a foundation on which rises weeping for their sins, and from all this crying is born meekness, and then begins to hunger for truth, and becomes merciful, and purifies the heart, and become a peacemaker, and is willing to endure exile for truth. And it is not a random sequence, it is the law of growth, which is impossible to jump, as it is impossible to skip through the foundation, building a house, and at each step of this ladder, the man meets with a certain passion, with a certain disease of your heart that you want to heal, and spiritual poverty treats pride, crying treats hardened insensitivity, meekness heals anger, Albania, truth cures laziness and indifference, mercy heals hardness of heart, purity of heart heals impure thoughts and passions, peacekeeping heals the spirit of enmity, the patience of exile treats his attachment to the world and of human fame. And when you walk this way, you don't just get better in a moral sense, you change the level of the depth level that the Holy Fathers called the heart. And there is a special tradition inside of Orthodoxy which is called hesychasm, which means silence. And in this tradition, these commands are used as a practical guide for the purification of the heart. Because the hesychast is not the one who ran away from the world, and those who have learned to keep the mind in the heart, who have learned to listen to myself, to notice the first thought, before it turns into action. And attention commandments are not banned, and tools of discernment, when you see that angry thought is not you, It's just a wave that came and could just leave if you don't delay it. And you already know that at this moment you can refer to prayer, unable to remain silent, unable to recall the gentleness. And so, step by step, the thought behind the thought, passion for passion, the heart is purified and becomes what it was originally intended, a receptacle of the divine presence. And you can ask, and what has happened to all friends of the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery"? They have not disappeared. They are not cancelled. They are included in the staircase on a deeper level, because Christ, when he came, did not violate an ancient law given through Moses, but fulfilled it that is filled inner sense. And if the old law said, "Thou shalt not kill," then Christ says that anyone who is angry with his brother is already killing it in your heart. And if the law says you shall not commit adultery, Christ said that whoever looks at a woman lustfully already committed adultery in your heart. And there is tightening, there is deepening, because the external observance of the law could leave the heart of the dirty, not to kill physically, but to carry hatred. And it does not make a man, so the commandments of the Beatitudes is not directed to the hand and foot, and to the very source from which flows all actions to heart. And when the heart is purified, then "thou shalt not kill," and "thou shalt not steal," and "thou shalt not commit adultery" are executed naturally, without coercion, as the fruit of a healthy tree. And now, when you hear it, you can see the overall picture, where the commandments are not disparate rules, as a single organism, where love and humility is the blood which nourishes all of the members, where each commandment is a step up, and every passion is an obstacle that can be overcome. And you have already passed this way in these practices, even if only in the mind and heart, but the seed has been sown, and now it's your job to throw it back to these words, remembering them during the day, especially in those moments when life puts you before a choice, and know that this path does not require of thee of heroism. It requires only one thing: not to leave him, to go in small steps, to fall and get up again and go back to what was said here, and let ourselves now, in the end, just to stay in silence, feeling that all these commandments, all these words, all these practices lead to one, to ensure that your heart has become a meeting place, a place where the earth unites with heaven, where you become the person intended. And when you're ready, open your eyes and come back into the world, but not like before, because now you know the ladder, and you know that the most important thing is love and humility, and everything else will follow.